Hello, I'm Jen Langdon with the National Cryptologic Foundation. I'm here with my colleagues Mark and Jessica, and tonight we're presenting about implementing cybersecurity education at the middle school level. If you have questions, I'm going to ask you to put them in the chat kind of during our presentation, but we will have a time for questions at the end. And there will be a space for questions in our community of interest, which you can see in our agenda here. So first, we'll start with introductions. We'll talk about why we need cyber ed at the middle school level. And we'll talk about one of the solutions we're presenting, which is creating a community of interest. And our organization, the National Cryptologic Foundation, will present some resources. Teach Cyber is here with us, Sabrina and Jenny from Teach Cyber. They will present some of their resources and we'll have time for questions. So brief introduction. I'm Jen Langdon. I used to be a middle school educator. I used to teach science, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I got my master's in educational technology and curriculum. And then I had 2 kids and had to stop teaching for a little bit. But I got an associate's in cybersecurity and applied to an internship with the Cryptologic Foundation to make a computer game. And here I am. So Sabrina and Jenny, do you guys want to share something real quick about yourself, about your involvement with cybersecurity and education?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jenny Darty. I have a PhD in education. I spent about 10 years in academia as a professor at Purdue University in Indiana, and then a few years at Louisiana State University, and really focused on teacher professional development in the STEM area. I started working in cybersecurity education with the Gen Cyber program through Dark Enterprises, who managed the project, the program. And so that was my introduction to cybersecurity education. And I've been working the past 3 years with Dark Enterprises, small nonprofit focused on cybersecurity education. We have several projects, and one of which is Teach Cyber.
Great. Sabrina?
I'm Sabrina Smiley. I also work with Dark Enterprises. I have a master's in special education and taught for a while. And then during like Jenny said, when we were in the Gen Cyber years, I came on with Dark Enterprises and have stayed on to work on various cybersecurity projects. So I'm pretty new to cyber, but have been on the Dark Enterprises team part-time since about 2018 and moving more and more into a more capacity as we have different projects. So working particularly on the middle school element of projects right now. So
we're all here today to talk about implementing cyber at the middle school level. So we're going to quickly start back to why we need to do that. And I have 3 main reasons. First, students need to learn data care in this day and age. More kids of middle school age have devices now than pre-2020, and of course, since all time, right? But because of the more devices, there are more kids on social media as well. Along with that, cybercrime has also evolved. It's not just crime. It is huge business, $1 trillion business, and they are looking for the weakest link. And who is the weak link? Anybody who doesn't know about data care, right? How to take care of your data. If you're not aware how applications are using your information or how not to share your information, you're the weak link. So we really need to secure students in learning about data care and how to take care of that information. There we go. Second, many students choose their careers at middle school, so this is a perfect time to really start talking about this. High school is a little late. They've already signed up for their classes. They've already got their interests. They've already made those groups of friends. So we really need to narrow in on middle school because we need to close down these workforce shortages. There's over 600,000 openings. We'll never be able to close that gap if we don't start getting more people interested in cybersecurity. Now, there are kids who obviously won't go into cybersecurity, and obviously they need to all know about data care. But all of them are going to need to know how to use these technology skills in their job. this is a little complicated diagram, but basically change in hours spent by 2030 here. This is the change in skills that in hours that will be spent. And as you can see, technological skills will be huge, right? You will be spending more time in your job, whatever they're doing advanced IT skills or basic digital skills. So we can't just use technology in the classroom for just watching videos and reading websites. We really need to teach them coding. We really need to teach them those advanced level skills in order to prepare them for the workforce that's, going to be here in 10 years or so. So how do we, solve all these problems? Because we've established that we need to teach cybersecurity at the middle school level, but it's fragmented, right? Not all schools teach cybersecurity, middle schools. Maybe they have a technology class, they have a cybersecurity unit. Maybe they spend a week on cybersecurity. Maybe they have a cyber lunch bunch of kids, a teacher saw somebody and they're like, oh, hey, you guys are all interested in computers. I want to get you some extra computer time, come in during lunch. We'll, hang out. I can learn some stuff from you and I'll keep you out of trouble. It's fragmented. So how do we implement, the same solution everywhere? We can't. It's also difficult to get highly qualified teachers to come teach it. Even at the high school level, there is not a cybersecurity class being taught. So how do we get that information to kids if we don't have highly qualified teachers to deliver that? And then on top of that, there's, limited resources for how to make those connections about cybersecurity in the everyday settings, cross-curricular references. If you're a librarian and you're trying to share about finding reliable resources, are we also talking about using websites that say HTTPS at the beginning? Little basic ways to help integrate cybersecurity and data care into their vocabulary, right? And into their everyday usage of technology. Or even, more technical references like in math, if we're teaching, the power of 2, are we also talking about binary? Are we talking about IP addresses? Because I can tell you, like I took, cybersecurity undergraduate, that first level class in networking, everybody in there has a high school diploma and half of them cannot figure it out. Like if binary is going to be the Achilles heel of cybersecurity, we really need to up the math skills and the references to how these different pieces of math are really important to cyber. So we've established it's a complicated problem. One way that we're going about this is to bring together a community of people who are really passionate about teaching cybersecurity and cyber in general. So we're going to make a community of interest, and everybody in this community, whether if you're a school counselor, librarian, you're a teacher, a school leader, a homeschool teacher, what have you, if you're interested in teaching cyber education, we want you to connect in this community. You can share in cyber-related resources. We're going to kind of go over our roles that we envision. So we want community members to come in and exchange ideas, get and share resources, form partnerships, either school to school or with our partners like we have, like Teach Cyber. So getting involved with those groups and getting aware of activities and events that are out there, because there are tons of events that you can go to and get more resources and engage and network with more people to really help you get to a place where if you don't feel comfortable teaching cybersecurity, or you're already comfortable and you just want to expand and get better at what you're doing and teaching best practices. And so our role as the NCF and CCI is to really facilitate all of that, the sharing and the connection. And just real quick, because you'll see CCI, and I know that this is the National Cryptologic Foundation, I don't want anybody to be confused. CCI stands for Cyber Center for Education and Innovation, and it's basically part of our organization that's responsible for K-12 educational programming. So you'll see that, and that is NCF, and NCF part of that is the CCI. So a couple of resources that we're going to have on this community of interest to share. First is a cybersecurity game, and second is a Outsmart Cyber Threats booklet. And both of these have really been developed with middle schoolers in mind. The first one, the game, is really for like if you have no experience with cybersecurity whatsoever. This is a great entry-level experience where you get to see some cybersecurity concepts and really like envision yourself as a cybersecurity expert. Whereas the booklet is going to teach you more data care skills. And it also is going to talk about careers as well. We'll have links to all our cyber chats as well as curriculum and lesson repositories and some great professional development resources that we hope not to overlap with you guys at Teach Cyber. So they will be a little bit different. Some of them might be also local to Maryland because we are really closely knit with the organizations around here. So we hope to grow this community, and we have more resources to add to it in the coming months. We have another game coming out, and we need students to be play testers. So one way we hope to use this community is also get teachers to, reach back out and help develop, not just develop the game, but give us feedback on what we need to do to make it better, but also so students feel involved in this process. We'll also have a teacher guide and student workbook for the booklet that we're developing. And we'll have some in the community, just monthly virtual happy hours where we'll have polls and maybe some questions. And we hope to add, cybersecurity book list or a book club if people are interested, and other professional development. So we'll have a link to this community at the end of presentation that you guys can access. But before we get to that, I know Teach Cyber has some awesome things they want to share with you as well. So I'm going to stop screen share, let you guys take it away.
Thanks so much, Jen. A few of our slides actually kind of repeat some of what Jen just shared, which is really exciting. NCF has been just a wonderful partner to Dark Enterprises and Teach Cyber over the past several years, with different initiatives, a few we'll touch on here, but it really reflects the similar values that we have, the passion we have around the need for K12 start to embrace more robustly cybersecurity education. We want to highlight what we're starting to do in the middle school space, but we want to share our story a little bit first, as we've really concentrated at the high school level. That has tended to be where our focus has been, some of our experience and expertise lies. But as we've been working in the high school space, we realize it is a continuum, a pathway, a pipeline that needs to be established. And so we need to think through K12. So Sabrina, we can get to that next slide here. The field of cybersecurity, as Jen mentioned, is complex. It is multi-layered. There are a lot of different facets to cybersecurity, from the designer, the user, the interface, the technology. And so having that space be where we need more thinkers, more contributors, creates a really complicated problem, but also makes it a very important problem. It matters because, as Jen talked about, it's really ubiquitous in our world. It really touches every industry. It is something we're more and more reliant upon as consumers, as citizens, as employees and employers. So thinking about cybersecurity as a spectrum, from more digital literacy or cyber safety as more of that user, to moving and advancing a little bit to more of a literacy and approaching it from that data care perspective, that I need to be more active in understanding my role through this more complex, complicated cyberspace that I'm engaging in, to thinking about it in terms of this is a wonderful employment track for our students to consider. So we're trying to approach that complicated problem in different ways at different levels. Jen shared about, if we think about it from that employment side, and again, at the high school space, that tends to be a lot of the focus, is there's a huge need in our society to be producing students excited, engaged, prepared to either go directly into the workforce, pursue a military career where they'll be integrating cybersecurity, or higher education where they pursue cybersecurity as their degree. And right now, we aren't producing enough to fill those really needed positions across, again, industry, government, non-governmental agencies, where we need folks that have those high-level skills to be able to enter the workforce in that regard. So the range of skills as well is really important when we think about the need, not only across different sectors, but as well as technical thinkers, but we need folks that are in leadership and in policy that understand the complexities of cybersecurity and contribute really thoughtfully to the dialogue of how we develop regulations and policies and laws. And there are different pathways within cybersecurity as an employment opportunity that we want students early on to realize that they may be excited about something like forensics or something around law, that they can contribute really to cybersecurity. So we at Teach Cyber think about it in terms of a pipeline or pathways to enrollment, enlistment, and employment. And again, we focus a lot at the high school level, but we realize really to build that pipeline thoughtfully, middle school and elementary level needs to be a part of the conversation and think about the breadth of cybersecurity. So developing routes for learners to build that knowledge has been a lot of our effort through a lot of our different projects. That pipeline metaphor has a limitation because it seems like you hop on it and you're going one track, and that's not really the case. We all probably can share about our own career histories, and there's been a lot of weaving in and out, and we follow interests, we follow job opportunities, we maybe majored in something that we're not necessarily pursuing a career in. And I think similarly, cybersecurity, because of the breadth needed, the type of skills, the type of thinkers needed, there are those kind of loops. But as we think about it as a complex problem that education can start to kind of step up to solve, it's helpful to have that frame of reference of what the system looks like and where we're trying to kind of affect change in that system. So for us, it's K12, in school, out of school, really building opportunities for teachers and for students to learn, get excited, develop skills and knowledge in cybersecurity. So what's happening at the K12 level? What's so awesome is a lot. There's been a lot happening over the past couple of years. We have links to these on teachcyber.org/resources, I believe is the site. If you're interested in kind of clicking around, a lot of these, again, are at the high school level, and that's what Jen and NCF are trying to kind of catalyze more of this happening at the middle school level, but a lot of opportunities as well that could be adapted or modeled that's occurring at the high school level, from camps, clubs, apprenticeships, competitions, things, again, outside of school time, because typically in school time is pretty stressed as it is. So thinking about ways to engage students in out of school time competitions or games. A project I just wanted to quickly highlight here is the guidelines that was in partnership with the NCF. We developed, goodness, it's probably 3 or so years ago. Those guidelines are, you can think of them as like standard-like statements. There are 8 big ideas to kind of ground what would go into a high school cybersecurity course. That led to the development of courseware and really the birth of Teach Cyber. So we have right now courseware available. We do teacher professional development. We're trying to generate a lot of resources and community, again, focused primarily at the high school level. And Sabrina is going to touch on what we're starting to explore at the middle school level. But if you're interested in learning more about what we have at the high school level, we'd encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, reach out to one of us, register for an account, and kind of explore some of the courseware. And as always, if you have questions, let us know.
So, like Jenny said, I am kind of heading up our middle school cybersecurity club kits. So we, I think one of the main questions is why create cybersecurity club kits for middle school students? So at Teach Cyber, we believe everyone needs some cybersecurity knowledge, and a smaller portion of the population needs a lot of cybersecurity content knowledge, especially those who will be entering the workforce. So we're really about two things: educating the populace and building the cybersecurity workforce. So we're working hard to determine what it might mean for a middle schooler or a middle school student to be cybersecurity literate before they enter high school. And what do they need to know so they have awareness of those safe online behaviors, and then they can continue learning to operate in cyberspace well. Even if they don't choose a cybersecurity career, they can still have the knowledge to operate well in cyberspace. And then also at the middle school level, we really want to spark interest in students so they do pursue a career in cybersecurity. So we also believe cybersecurity at the middle school level is more than just good cyber hygiene. We really want there to be kind of an on-ramp going from just cyber safety to really looking at what the robust field of cybersecurity has to offer. So we feel like this can and should include career aptitude at the middle school level. So students can really begin to visualize themselves in the field of cybersecurity. So before we send them into the field of cybersecurity, we really want them to get a good feel for what cyber safety is. So this activity I'm showing really talks about cyber safety and ethical implications of their choices in cyberspace. So I'm just going to talk about this real quickly. So current middle school students have really lived their whole life with, the cyber world right at their fingertips. I mean, so many of them have just grown up in that world. So we really want to compare and contrast the physical world from the cyber world. They are different. They operate under different rules. Some are the same, but not all. And so this first activity kind of helps them start exploring what social media would be like on paper. So we're not suggesting middle school students go out and get social media accounts. I just want to be clear about that. This is like an on-paper activity. So if they do ever join a social media platform, they have some prior knowledge. So basically each kid makes a poster about themselves and they put, pictures of themselves or songs that they feel like represent them and just things like that. Be really creative and make it their own. And then they kind of make a gallery of their posters, and the rest of the classroom gets Post-it notes and kind of writes comments on the other person's poster. And then you can have a really great discussion on kind of things you should say and things you should not say online, and how that can affect someone when you have a screen between you and not just a Post-it note. So extension kind of ideas for this activity include, you can kind of segue from that, like those safe online behaviors, into really more of data care and cybersecurity, which really goes into, okay, when you post a picture on social media, who does that picture belong to? And then if someone takes a screenshot of a picture you've posted, then other people have access to it. And then who was this social media platform designed for? And are the users using it in the way it was designed? So this is just like one small way that from a poster that they've created about themselves, we can start bridging that gap into, the larger view of cybersecurity and how those systems can relate to maybe something they're a little more familiar with, like social media. So that's kind of the start of that activity. Another example that we have is really focusing on the CIA triad. In this activity, each student kind of creates their own paper triangle and has trust as the foundation, and then the 3 extra triangles as confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And they can really, build this and think about how they would define each of those terms and, who are people they can trust, what's a place they can trust, and start thinking about why is confidentiality important? Why is availability important? Why is integrity important? And as they do that, they can begin to see why. They can start exploring why the CIA triad is a foundational part of informational systems and information security. So each principle can't really stand alone. So as they build their little triangle here, if they just had one triangle, it wouldn't stand on its own. But once you have a foundation of trust and confidentiality, availability, integrity, when you have them all built together, it can stand securely. So implementing those kind of principles in a way that is kind of tangible, and they can interact with it, and then they can start thinking more in depth about identification, authentication, and authorization, just to start becoming familiar with some of those terms. They will eventually probably go in deeper to in high school, but they can start kind of getting familiar with them and thinking about those terms just in their cyber club. And like Jen and Jenny both said, not every cybersecurity or not every middle school has a cybersecurity class or a dedicated computer science class or even a cyber club. So we feel that, implementing these activities cross-curricularly can be a really great way for middle schools to integrate cybersecurity. So I have my next activity could even almost be used in like a math class. Students could make their own cipher wheel and use, like a compass, a protractor, and that sort of thing in math class, and do their measurements and that sort of thing to create slots. This one has 32, so 26 for the alphabet, and then 6 for exclamation points and question marks and that sort of thing. Or a math teacher could have numbers and equal signs and all of that. And then the kids could, decrypt and encrypt messages or math problems or whatever. So I think it's really important to kind of take cybersecurity and integrate it into other classes as best we can if there's not, a dedicated cybersecurity course at the middle school level. And in that, then you begin to, explore, cryptanalysis and steganography, even in a math class. So those are just some of the ways that we can start bridging that gap and building that on-ramp so middle school students can become more and more interested in cybersecurity.
Thank you all for attending. Have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.